Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Khalid bin Jimat and I'm from Palestine Center of Excellence. And today I'll be presenting on the topic of political instability in Israel and its impact on the genocide in Gaza. Thank you for Prof. Azari and Hashim Sani Center for President Studies for allowing me to present this topic. A little bit of background. So we have known, I believe all of us has been informed about the political instability in Israel since 2019, whereby it has to undergo a series of elections and has failed to actually form a stable government. The recent government that has been formed is actually the result of the 2022 elections, and it ended up Netanyahu had to include far right parties into the government, which has caused worries not only in Israel but also outside the world, um, especially in America and the European countries. And it has been proven to be disastrous for Israel in light of the current genocide in Gaza. So way back in 2022, I believe, I've also presented on this topic, but touching on the prospect of ending the Zionist regime due to the political instability in Israel. But today we will talk about how it actually impacted the genocide in Gaza. So the first one, on the government unity and public confidence. So the frequent political turmoil and changes in government have undermined the public trust in leadership. And the current right-wing coalition led by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has faced criticism for prioritizing political alliances and ideologies over effective governance. For example, the coalition inclusion of far-right element has both bolstered a hardline approach towards Gaza and polarized Israeli society, potentially reducing the government ability to build broad-based support for its strategies. And because of that, and Netanyahu realized that, and that's why he actually early on has managed to invite Benny Gantz from National Unity Party to form a unity government and immediately include Benny Gantz into his three-member war cabinet together with Yoav Galan. And this actually angered the far right wing party, especially Ben Gvir, who actually want to be in the war cabinet to make sure his party actually know or what all the important decision for the war. and and somehow the inclusion of guns into the government has restored a little bit of public confidence. But there is a study done by Pew Research Center back in April. This before Gantz actually withdraw from the government. So you can see that there is a only 53% confidence level for Israeli towards the government in managing the war, despite Gantz joining the government. And due to the lack of progress in ending the war, Gantz at the end withdraw from the government and has been pushing for new elections uh, f- so that the new government can actually get a new mandate from the people to decide whether to end the war or continue with the current policies and strategies. Second one on the military decision making. Military operation in Gaza require extensive coordination between the Israeli defense forces, the intelligence community, and the political leadership. Now, recently, contradiction between political and military leaders have occasionally led to public disputes over strategy, such as the effectiveness of deterrence versus the need for grounds operations. And this internal conflict can delay or complicate decision making, as differing political interests sometimes led to disagreement on military tactics, timelines, and acceptable risk. And we can see that what happened is Netanyahu has been pushing for the military to destroy Hamas, but the military has been informing even publicly that Hamas cannot be achieved. So as and Israel has to adopt a deterrence strategy uh, to end the war and save the hostages. And Galan actually prefer or are more inclined to attack Hezbollah, uh, which is a more stronger opponent or threat, a bigger threat to Israel compared to Hamas. And Galan has been pushing for ending the war, saving the hostages, and replacing Hamas with new government with the cooperation of Arab countries and international community. And Galan has been pushing this over time since January, and in fact, he has come publicly with the asking Netanyahu for a post-war plan, a clear post-war plan in May, and all this dispute has been, caused more instability in Israel, and it ended up Galan finally being fired by Netanyahu in November, and this instability and all these quarrels between politicals and military leaders has somehow put Galan being more popular than Netanyahu actually. So this is a survey done by Pew Research again back in April, whereby Galan received 61% favors from Israeli compared to Netanyahu only 41%. And in fact, Gantz has received a higher favor for higher votes for with 51% from the Israeli public. So apparently, it's very clear that Netanyahu policies has been, rejected by Israeli. And the third one on the far right political influence, and far right faction in current government, such as Itamar Ben Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich, have advocated for aggressive policies in Gaza, as well as in the West Bank, where tensions are also high. Their influence pushes for harsher responses, which can lead to escalated violence and increased civilian casualties, sparking international criticism and complicating diplomatic efforts. And this uncompromising stance may limit Israel's flexibility in pursuing ceasefire or negotiated solutions. And we can see that Ben Gvir and Smotrich has been pushing Netanyahu to continue the war. Otherwise, they will quit the government. That's the function of guns early on in the government, to make sure that the government doesn't fail. And Ben Gvir has been pushing, for himself to join the war cabinet, war cabinet, as I mentioned before, to make sure he's not being kept in dark about the important war decision. And the far right has been advocated for a hardline approach against Gaza, and has been, promoting that if we are accepting Israel accept ceasefire, it can be seen as a surrendering to terrorism or to surrendering to Hamas. And Farag has been pushing for resettlement in Gaza, which complicates post-war strategies. And this is a study by Pew Research again about how Israelis see multiple conflict within their societies between the political left and political right. There are 69%, conflicts between them. I mean, they think that there's a high 69% of the Israeli believe that there are huge uh, uh, conflict between left and right in Israel, and 61% perceive that there is a huge conflict between Israeli Jews and Israeli Arabs, and 56% between the religious group in Israel and the non-religious group in Israel. So as you can see, more than 50% believe that there are conflicts between the sub uh, component of societies in Israel due to this war. And and this is here another one where Israeli expressed pessimism about the future of their country. And the first one I want to highlight is on the national security. Actually, only 53% are optimistic about the security of their country. So, which I believe is a little bit low considering Israel, military might and military support from America, and about 50% of Israeli are very pessimistic about the political system, how their political system work, and how actually the political system has failed them in saving, especially in saving their hostages and ending the war. And the fourth one is on the strain of Israel-US relationship. So Israel political instability affects its ability to maintain strong relationship with international allies, particularly the United States, which support is crucial. Internal division have sometimes led to mixed messages about Israel objective in Gaza, complicating the diplomatic effort needed to maintain U.S. support. So there's a there has a huge uh, uh, dispute about how they should actually manage the war, and U.S. has been keep asking Israel to actually allow the entry of humanitarian aid, even though they are continuing the war, but make sure the humanitarian aid are coming in. And has been pushing to Israel to allow entrance through Rafah crossing, and then early on since October actually, because we hear about Galan actually um, uh, pushing for the policy to put a complete siege on Gaza. So US asked them to actually open the crossing, and then after the short-term ceasefire back in November, when they continue again the war, US again asked Israel to reopen Kerem Shalom and Erez crossing on the north and the southern part of Gaza, and uh, and then when the war still continuing, and all the ceasefire effort has been failed, rejected by Israel. Um, US has to initiate the airdrop back in March and building floating piers in May. Um, but this has not really solved the problem of humanitarian aid in Gaza, and the threat of famine has still been being informed and by the United Nations, especially the World Food Program. And Biden has also announced about Rafah invasion as a red line, but Netanyahu still go and invade Rafah. U.S. then threatened to halt the shipment of 2,000-pound bombs. We hear about this news in order to threaten Netanyahu, but then still Netanyahu continue with the war, and Netanyahu then reject Biden's ceasefire proposal clearly, which has been agreed by the delegation from Israel, which involved the intelligence, the security advisor, the Minister of Defense. But then Netanyahu, even though the all the advisor has agreed to that framework, and in fact he actually agreed, but then he still reject the ceasefire due to the difference um, uh, perspective on how actually they want to end the war in Gaza. And Netanyahu actually has been still refusing to declare Israel's stance on Gaza resettlement, because this resettlement um, is quite core to ending the war and to get the collaboration from Arab countries to actually govern Gaza, and to make sure the policy of Hamas not continuing governing Gaza can be proceed. So this has been quite an obstacle to ending the war. And the fifth one on long-term strategy in Gaza. So a cohesive long-term strategy for Gaza has been difficult to formulate amidst Israel political instability. While some factions advocate for deterrence and containment, others push for a more permanent solution, either through a military operation to fully defeat Hamas or through diplomatic channel. So and we can see that because of the lack of cohesive long-term strategy, it has risked strengthening support towards Hamas, deepening tension with Iran and its allies, risking ties with Jordan, Egypt, UAE, Bahrain, and Morocco, and risking normalization effort with Saudi Arabia. And of course, due to the current genocide, the new Middle East plan promoted by Netanyahu has been disrupted uh, permanently. But in conclusion, uh, political instability in Israel has prolonged the genocide in Gaza, which huge negative consequences on Israel. But prolonging the war has also deepened the rift between uh, Israel right and left political parties, and between Jewish and Arab communities in Israel, as well as between religious and secular Jews in Israel. It also caused Israel to be more pessimistic about the future of their political system. It put a strain on Israel-US relationship and putting normalization track on hold, arguably permanently. So, in conclusion, in summary, Israel internal political instability significantly impacts its approach to Gaza by complicating military decision making, straining international alliances, and stalling the formation of a unified long-term strategy. So that's it from me. Hopefully this benefited all of you. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.